Welcome to the fourth branch program, the place for common sense. Today is Saturday, July 6, 2019. I am MD. Give us 60 seconds, we will give you the world. Thank you for staying with us. If you joined us before, thank you for your participation. It makes the journey a tad lighter, a little bit more bearable. If you join us for the first time, welcome to the fourth branch program, the place for common sense. The fourth branch program is not associated with any political party, and we at the fourth branch do not have any political aspiration. The ultimate objective is to perfect the union. As such, we ought to remove the biggest obstacle of all: ignorance. JFK said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Today, as usual, we debate a controversial issues, but instead we will try to put an end to the reading of volume 1 of the Mueller Report. There are only 14 pages left in the report, so we will try to complete that so that next week we can begin with volume 2. But first, as usual, we will provide you some context as to why the report was generated and what's said in the report. As we have been doing, we simply read the report. We do not comment about the report. We do not add our take. We simply let Mueller, the architect of the report, speak to you. Just a side note that on July 17, 2019, Robert Mueller, the architect of the report, will be on Capitol Hill to talk. What else about the report? We'll be right back. Live from New York City at the top of the hour, every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the fourth branch presents discussions, debates, commentary on social, political issues, current events, sports, entertainment, religion, education, science, and every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation on controversial issues such as abortion, homosexuality, war on blacks. Are Republicans dumber than Democrats? Information which might irritate you, make you cry, make you laugh, but above all, will make you smarter. Join us every time. It is the right thing to do. It is the only way to keep your sanity in a world of chaos, hypocrisy, immorality, and deception. Welcome to Common Sense. For the past 2 years, there have been a lot of, the media has been consumed by Donald Trump. Now, prior to that, during the 2016 election, the media was consumed by Donald Trump. And yet, for a reason that we ought to spend a great deal of time understanding, yet nobody seems to know Donald Trump. There are thousands and thousands of documents, public records, talking about Donald Trump. Everything that he has done since the day he was born, alongside of his father. So today, we will present to you the Donald Trump the country should have known. Before we begin with the reading of the Mueller Report. Born in June 14, 1946, well, Donald Trump is officially 73 years old. That is, if you believe public records. Well, in Donald Trump's words, it could be fake news. For all we know, Donald Trump is a young man. He could just be 35 years old. The fake media must have miscalculated his age. Well, enough of the comedy. Donald Trump is one of 4 children. His parents, Fred and Marianne McLeod, put into existence. The other 3, Frederick Jr., Elizabeth, and Robert. Now, although Donald Trump has always claimed to have wealth well over $10 billion, public record estimates his wealth to be in the vicinity of just over $3 billion. Still, sizable amount of wealth for an individual who spent his time defrauding people instead of building something substantial. No pun intended here. According to public record, Donald Trump went to the Wharton School of Business, where he got a BS in economics. A BS he got indeed. When Trump was in college from 1964 to 1968, he obtained 4 student draft deferment. Well, he wanted not to go to serve his country. In 1966, he was deemed fit for military service based upon medical examination, and in July of 1968, a local draft board classified him as eligible to serve. However, in October of 1968, he was given a medical deferment, which resulted in a 1-year classification. Quote, unqualified for duty except in the case of a national emergency. Trump said in July 2015 that his medical deferment was due to his, quote, feet. He, quote, had a bone spur, but said he could not remember which foot was injured. Trump presidential campaign then stated that Trump had bone spur in both feet. In December of 1969 draft lottery, Trump's birthday, June 14, received a high number that would have given him a low probability to be called for military service even without the 1-year classification. In 1972, he was reclassified as a Category 4F, which permanently disqualified him from service. In 1973 and 1976, New York Times reported that Trump had graduated first in his class at Wharton University, School of Business, of course. However, in 1984, Times profile of Trump noted that he had never even made the honor roll. In 88, New York Magazine reported that Trump conceding, okay, I may not have been first, as myth has it, but I had the highest grade possible. That is not so. At a very early age, Donald Trump learned from his father, Fred, not only how to scheme the system, but also how to lie to government officials or bribe them to look the other way. At 17 years of age, young Trump watched his father deny blacks tenancy at the building he owns in Queens and lie to government officials about it. Certainly into him why he did that. So Trump had to learn from his father why he, Fred, keep denying blacks access, and because his business, Fred business, was sued for discrimination, Trump grew up with a deep resentment for blacks. His father was forced to pay penalty for discrimination. Trump believed he could do better than his father, meaning he could become worse than his father at defrauding people, discriminating against blacks, scheming the system, and getting away with it. And yes, he has for many decades. Even as a few months ago, Mr. Trump was boasting of not paying any taxes. Remember, he is a billionaire, but he's bragging not to pay any taxes. First, he defrauded the government and refused to serve his country. Now he's defrauding not only the government but the taxpayers because, well, he knows how not to pay taxes. Now, in addition to an army of lawyers to bog the system down and discourage anyone from pursuing legal action against him or his organization, Mr. Trump has always played the victim. During the presidency race, he claimed to have been under audit by IRS every year. What a poor guy. That's about to change because Mr. Mueller provided enough material to IRS to uncover his wrongdoings. The bandwagon of lawsuit or prosecutions is coming. Mr. Trump believes his scheming ability has become so good that he even attempted to defraud the very individual who had taught him the art of scheming others, his father. According to a public record, Mr. Trump attempted to modify his father's will. What a great guy. Despite a streak of public records clearly depicting Donald Trump as a fraud, a liar, a crook, many had continued to believe he is a great businessman. In fact, the individual who wrote The Art of the Deal for Mr. Trump was stunned to learn that as he was writing the book, Donald Trump was on the verge of losing $1 billion. Yes, 1 billion with a B. Secrecy is another important tool Donald Trump has used in order to keep everyone off balance. And, well, he's been very successful at that. Even the attorneys who ought to defend him against the accusation of collaborating with a foreign enemy know very little of what Donald Trump did and did not do. Mr. Trump has always posed as someone bigger, a successful businessman. He makes in lies, in deception, in fraud what he lacks in intelligence. So it was not difficult to foresee that Donald Trump's campaign for the presidency was a fraud. As his attorney Michael Cohen testified on the Hill, Donald Trump had no intention of becoming president, a fact we related in previous publication well before the November 8, 2016 election. Mr. Trump saw the exercise of campaigning for the presidency of the United States as an opportunity to elevate the brand, the Trump brand, on the world stage. When it seemed probable he could become the next president of the United States, Mr. Trump did what he has always done all his life: devise a way to take advantage of the largest stage, the highest position, the most powerful office, the presidency of the United States. As such, it should not have come as a surprise to anyone that Donald Trump would have collaborated with Russia, anyone for that matter, to put him in a post that in his mind he had to account to no one. Mr. Trump does not want to account to anyone. In fact, he proves that in his private life. That's why that's the main reason he never took his business public. Having won the presidency under very dubious and suspicious circumstances, Mr. Trump tried to enlist everyone in his administration to help him cover any aspect of the campaign. The enlisting of Russian and pro-Russian individuals that helped him win the presidency, of course. Any activity that would reveal his scheme to become the 45th president of the United States. As such, when he tried to cajole James Comey, then director of the FBI, to sweep under the rug wrongdoing by his national security advisor, Michael Flynn, and Mr. Comey did not follow suit, Mr. Trump did what Donald Trump has always done: to remove the obstacle by firing James Comey. But unfortunately for Donald Trump, the firing of James Comey triggered the beginning of a long 2 years investigation, something he could not foresee, something he believed maybe he could easily handle, something he hoped the Republican houses would just squash. Slowly, the GOP legislators tried to do just that by accusing everyone who would not help to shield Donald Trump, who would not help to exonerate Donald Trump. Most unfortunately, when the 2018 midterm election landed a serious blow to that strategy, the Democrats won the lower chamber of Congress, Donald Trump turned to the only place he could, the Senate Republican, to squash any possibility of being held accountable. In the meantime, Donald Trump, with the help of the Senate, have his newly appointed Attorney General Bill Barr easily confirmed through the Senate, which now holds a majority that's sufficient to have any nominee confirmed. Bill Barr, having auditioned for the post, walked into the office as the head of the Department of Justice, DOJ, to defend Donald Trump, to protect him, to do his bidding. When the Mueller Report was sent to DOJ, Bill Barr proved he is exactly what he said he is: another scoundrel who holds a high office determined to destroy the most important institution in our nation. Mr. Barr issued a 4-page letter in an attempt to exonerate Donald Trump. The letter was read and received by Donald Trump as such. For a few days, Donald Trump and associates were all out drumming the beat that, Robert Mueller exonerated Donald Trump. Robert Mueller did no such thing. Mr. Trump didn't care. In fact, he has spent a lifetime lying to everyone about everything. With the megaphone of the presidency, his voice can go farther and have more impact, and he has used it for that. After much wrangling in public debate, the Democrats were forced to begin some sort of process to hold the Trump administration accountable. Well, Mr. Trump continued to complain about the Democrat, and behind the scene pursuing all venues. And the Democrats weren't idle either. They tried legal, judicial, criminal, civil activities to bring all matters to the public arena. On July 17, 2019, the architect of the report will be on Capitol Hill to talk about, well, what else? The report. Expectations are high on the Democrat side. Anxiety high on the Republican side. Mr. Trump hoped to weather the Mueller's appearance on the Hill by going full campaign on that very day. Mr. Trump's hope could prove to be just that, hope. His Mr. Robert Mueller appearance on the Hill, despite GOP alliance with Donald Trump, could be a turning point not just for the investigation but also for Donald Trump. It could be the first time in his life that he will have to answer for his wrongdoing.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
Let's continue with the reading of the Mueller Report. We left last time reading the last portion of Volume 1 of the Mueller Report. We are at the point where Mueller is providing a definition of terms that his office used in relation to charging various individuals of various crimes. And the last time we read to you as to why the individuals who participated in the Trump Tower meeting were not charged, such as Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and company. Robert Mueller explained the definition of those terms as understood by the Department of Justice, and as such, he was unable to charge those individuals, not because they were innocent, but rather because, as he mentioned in his report, it would have been difficult to prove that they understood what they were doing. Now the next section of the report is willfulness. Even assuming that the promise, quote, document and information that would incriminate Hillary, end of quote, constitute a, quote, thing of value under campaign finance law, the government would encounter other challenges in seeking to obtain and sustain a conviction. Most significantly, the government has not obtained admissible evidence that is likely to establish scienter requirement beyond a reasonable doubt to prove that a defendant acted, quote, knowingly and willfully in a court. The government would have to show that the defendant had general knowledge that his conduct was unlawful. We'll be right back. U.S. Department of Justice, Federal Prosecution of Election Offenses 123, 8th edition, December 2017, Election Offenses. See Blumen 800F, Sup 2D at 292, noting that a willful violation requires, quote, proof of the defendant's knowledge of the law, end of quote. Daniel 6, 917, F, Sup 2nd at 577, quote, knowledge of general unlawfulness, end of quote. Quote, this standard creates an elevated scienter element requiring, at the very least, that application of the law to the facts that in question be fairly clear. When there is substantial doubt concerning whether the law applies to the facts of a particular matter, the offender is more likely to have an intent defense, end of quote. Election Offenses 123. On the facts here, the government would unlikely be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the June 9th meeting participant had general knowledge that their conduct was unlawful. The investigation has not developed evidence that the participants in the meeting were familiar with the foreign contribution ban or the application of federal law to the relevant factual context. The government does not have strong evidence of surreptitious behavior or efforts at concealment at the time of the June 9th meeting. While the government has evidence of later efforts to prevent disclosure of the nature of the June 9 meeting that could circumstantially provide support for a showing of scienter, see Volume 2, Section 2G, infra, that concealment occurred more than a year later, involve individuals who did not attend the June 9 meeting and may reflect an intention rather to avoid political consequences rather than any prior knowledge of illegality. Additionally, in light of the unresolved legal question about whether giving, quote, documents and information, end of quote, of the sort offered here constitutes a campaign contribution, Trump Jr. could mount a factual defense that he did not believe his response to the offer and the June 9th meeting itself violated the law. Given his less direct involvement in arranging in June 9th meeting, Kushner could likely mount a similar defense, and while Manafort is experienced with political campaign, the office has not developed evidence showing that he had relevant knowledge of these legal issues. Difficulties in valuing promised information. The office would also encounter difficulty proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the value of the promised document and information exceed the, quote, $2,000 threshold for a criminal violation, as well as the $25,000 threshold for felony punishment. See 52 USC 30109 D1. The type of evidence commonly used to establish the value of non-monetary contributions, such as pricing the contribution on a commercial market or determining the upstream acquisition cost of the cost of distribution, would likely be unavailable or ineffective in this factual setting. Although damaging opposition research is surely valuable to a campaign, it appears that the information ultimately delivered in the meeting was not valuable. And while value in a conspiracy may well be measured by what the participant expected to receive at the time of the agreement, e.g. United States versus Tombrello 666, F 2D 485 489 11th Circuit 1982, Goldstone's description of the offered material here was quite general. His suggestion of the information value, that is, that it would, quote, incriminate Hillary, end of quote, and, quote, would be very useful to Trump Jr.'s father, end of quote, was non-specific and may have been understood as being of uncertain worth or reliability, given Goldstone's lack of direct access to the original source. The uncertainty over what would be delivered could be reflected in Trump Jr.'s response, quote, "If it's what you said, I love it." Accordingly, taking into account the high burden to establish a culpable mental state in a campaign finance prosecution, and the difficulty in establishing the required valuation, the office decided not to pursue criminal campaign finance charges against Trump Jr. or other campaign officials for the events culminating in the June 9th meeting. The remaining part of this page has been completely redacted, and the following page also has been completely redacted. The page after that has a few pieces of information we can begin to read. Willfulness. As discussed, to establish a criminal campaign finance violation, the government must prove that the defendant acted, quote, knowingly and willfully, end of quote. 52 USC 30109 D1AI. That standard requires proof that the defendant knew generally that his conduct was unlawful. Election Offenses 123. Given the uncertainties noted above, the, quote, willfulness, end of quote, requirement would pose a substantial barrier to prosecution. Constitutional consideration. Finally, the First Amendment could pose constraint on a prosecution. The remaining part of this paragraph has been completely redacted. So is the following paragraph. The first two paragraphs in the following page have been completely redacted. False statement and obstruction of the investigation. The office determined that certain individuals associated with the campaign lied to investigators about campaign contact with Russia and have taken other action to interfere with the investigation. As explained below, the office therefore charged some U.S. person connected to the campaign with false statement and obstruction offenses. Overview of governing law. False statement. The original federal statute criminalizing false statement to government investigators is 18 U.S.C. 1001. Is relevant here under section 1001A2. It is a crime to knowingly and willfully, quote, make any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation, end of quote, quote, in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive branch of the government, end of quote. An FBI investigation is a matter within the executive branch jurisdiction. United States versus Rogers, 466 U.S. 475, 479, 1984. The statute also applied to a subset of legislative branch action. These administrative matters and, quote, investigative or reviews, end of quote, conducted by a congressional committee or subcommittee, 18 U.S.C. 1001 C1 and 2. See United States versus Pickett, 353 F.3D 6266, D.C. Circuit, 2004. Whether the statement was made to law enforcement or congressional investigators, the government must prove beyond a reasonable doubt the same basic non-jurisdictional element. The statement was false, fictitious, fraudulent. The defendant knew both that it was false and that it was unlawful to make a false statement, and the false statement was material. See e.g. United States versus Smith, 831 F.3D 1207, 1222, and 27, 9th Circuit, 2017. Listing elements. See also 9th Circuit Pattern Instruction 8.73 and explaining that the Section 1001 jury instruction was modified in light of the Department of Justice position that the phrase, quote, knowingly and willfully, end of quote, in the statute requires the defendant knowledge that his conduct was unlawful. In the D.C. Circuit, the government must prove that the statement was actually false. A statement that misleading but, quote, literally true, end of quote, does not satisfy Section 1001A2. See United States versus Milton, 8 F.3D 3945, D.C. Circuit, 1993. United States versus Dale, 1991, F.2D 819, 832, 33, and N.22, D.C. Circuit, 1993. For that false statement to qualify as, quote, material, it must have a natural tendency to influence or be capable of influencing a discrete decision or any other function of the agency to which it is addressed. See United States versus Gordon, 515 U.S. 506, 509, 1995. United States versus Moore, 612 F.3D 698, 701, D.C. Circuit, 2010. Perjury. Under the federal perjury statutes, it is a crime for a witness testifying under oath before a grand jury to knowingly make any false material declaration. See 18 U.S.C. 1623. The government must prove 4 elements beyond a reasonable doubt to obtain a conviction under Section 1623A. The defendant testify under oath before a federal grand jury. The defendant's testimony was false in one or more respects. The false testimony concerned matters that were material to the grand jury investigation, and the false testimony was knowingly given. United States versus Bridge, 717 F.2D 1444, 1449, and .30, D.C. Circuit, 1983. The General Perjury Statute, 18 U.S.C. 1621, also applies to grand jury testimony and has similar elements, except that it requires that the witness have acted willfully and that the government satisfy, quote, strict common law requirement for establishing falsity, end of quote. See Dunn versus United States, 442 U.S. 100, 106, and N. 6, 1979, explaining, quote, the two-witness rule, end of quote, and the corroboration that it demands. Obstruction of justice. Three basic elements are common to the obstruction statute pertinent to the office's charging decision. An obstructive act, some form of nexus between the obstructive act and other official proceeding, and criminal, corrupt intent. A detailed discussion of those elements and the law governing obstruction of justice more generally is included in Volume 2 of the report. Application to certain individual, George Papadopoulos. Investigators approached Papadopoulos for an interview based on his role as a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign and his suggestion to a foreign government representative that Russia had indicated that it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information damaging to candidate Clinton. On January 27, 2017, Papadopoulos agreed to be interviewed by FBI agent, who informed him that the interview was part of the investigation into potential Russian government interference in the 2016 presidential election. During the interview, Papadopoulos lied about the timing, extent, and nature of his communication with Joseph Mifsud, Olga Polonskaya, and Ivan Timofeyev. With respect to timing, Papadopoulos acknowledged that he had met with Mifsud, and Mifsud told him the Russian had dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. But Papadopoulos stated multiple times that those communications occurred before he joined the Trump campaign and that it was a, quote, very strange coincidence, end of quote, to be told of the dirt before he started working for the campaign. This account was false. Papadopoulos met Mifsud for the first time on approximately March 14, 2016, after Papadopoulos had already learned he would be a foreign policy advisor for the campaign. Mifsud showed interest in Papadopoulos only after learning of his role on the campaign. And Mifsud told Papadopoulos about the Russian possessing dirt on candidate Clinton in late April 2016, more than a month after Papadopoulos had joined the campaign and been publicly announced by candidate Trump. Statement of offense 2526, United States versus Papadopoulos, number 1, 17-CR-182, DDC, October 5, 2017, document 19, Papadopoulos statement of offense. Papadopoulos also made false statements in an effort to minimize the extent and importance of his communication with Mifsud. For example, Papadopoulos stated that Mifsud is a nothing, that he thought Mifsud was, quote, just a guy talking up connection or something, end of quote, and that he believed Mifsud was, quote, BS. In BSing, rather, to be completely honest with you, end of quote. In fact, however, Papadopoulos understood Mifsud to have substantial connection to high-level Russian government officials and that Mifsud spoke with some of those officials in Moscow before telling Papadopoulos about the dirt. Papadopoulos also engaged in extensive communication over a period of months with Mifsud about foreign policy issues for the campaign, including efforts to arrange a, quote, history-making, end of quote, meeting between the campaign and Russian government officials. In addition, Papadopoulos failed to inform investigators that Mifsud had introduced him to Timofeyev, the Russian national who Papadopoulos understood to be connected to the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, despite being asked if he had met with Russian national or anyone with a Russian accent during the campaign. Papadopoulos' statement of offense. Papadopoulos also falsely claimed that he met Polonskaya before he joined the campaign and falsely told the FBI that he had no relationship at all with her. He stated that the extent of the communication was her sending email, just "Hi, how are you?" That's it. In truth, however, Papadopoulos met Polonskaya on March 24, 2016 after he had joined the campaign. He believed that she had connection to high-level Russian government official and could help him arrange a potential policy trip to Russia. During the campaign, he emailed and spoke with her over Skype on numerous occasions about the potential foreign policy trip to Russia. Papadopoulos' statement of offense. Papadopoulos' false statement in January 2017 impeded the FBI investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Most immediately, the statement hindered investigators' ability to effectively question Mifsud when he was interviewed in the lobby of a Washington, D.C. hotel on February 10, 2017. See Government Sent Memo at 6 United States versus George Papadopoulos, number 117-CR-182, DDC, August 18, 2017, document 44. During that interview, Mifsud admitted to knowing Papadopoulos and to having introduced him to Polonskaya and Timofeyev. But Mifsud denied that he had advanced knowledge that Russia was in possession of email damaging to candidate Clinton, stating that he and Papadopoulos had discussed cybersecurity and hacking as a larger issue and that Papadopoulos must have understood their conversation. Mifsud also falsely stated that he had not seen Papadopoulos since the meeting at which Mifsud introduced him to Polonskaya, even though email, text messages, and other information show that Mifsud met with Papadopoulos on at least two other occasions, April 12 and April 26, 2016. In addition, Mifsud omitted that he had drafted or edited the follow-up message that Polonskaya sent to Papadopoulos following the initial meeting, and that, as reflected in the language of that email chain, quote, "Baby, thank you," end of quote. Mifsud may have been involved in a personal relationship with Polonskaya at the time. The false information and omission in Papadopoulos' January 2017 interview undermined investigators' ability to challenge Mifsud when he made these inaccurate statements. Given the seriousness of the lies and omission and their effects on the FBI investigation, the office charged Papadopoulos with making false statements to the FBI in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001. Information, United States versus George Papadopoulos, number 117-CR-182, DDC, October 3, 2017, document 8. On October 7, 2017, Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to that charge, pursuant to a plea agreement. On September 7, 2018, he was sentenced to 14 days of imprisonment, a $9,500 fine, and 200 hours of community service. The following two paragraphs has been redacted. Grand jury, Michael Flynn. Flynn agreed to be interviewed by the FBI on January 24, 2017, 4 days after he had officially assumed his duties as National Security Advisor to the President. During the interview, Flynn made several false statements pertaining to his communication with the Russian ambassador. First, Flynn made 2 false statements about his conversation with Russian Ambassador Kislyak in late December 2016, at a time when the United States had imposed sanctions on Russia for interfering with the 2016 presidential election, and Russia was considering its response. See Flynn's statement of offense. Flynn told the agent that he did not ask Kislyak to refrain from escalating the situation in response to the United States imposing of sanctions. That statement was false. On December 29, 2016, Flynn called Kislyak to request Russian restraint. Flynn made the call immediately after speaking to a senior transition team official, Katie McFarland, about what to communicate to Kislyak. Flynn then spoke with McFarland again after the Kislyak call to report on the substance of that conversation. Flynn also falsely told the FBI that he did not remember a follow-up conversation in which Kislyak stated that Russia had chosen to moderate its response to the U.S. sanction as a result of Flynn's request. On December 31, 2016, Flynn in fact had such a conversation with Kislyak, and he again spoke with McFarland within hours of the call to relay the substance of his conversation with Kislyak. See Flynn's statement of offense. Second, Flynn made false statement about calls he had previously made to representatives of Russia and other countries regarding a resolution by Egypt to the United Nations Security Council on December 21, 2016. Specifically, Flynn stated that he only asked the countries' position on how they would vote on the resolution, and that he did not request that any of the countries take any particular action on the resolution. That statement was false. On December 22, 2016, Flynn called Kislyak, informed him of the incoming Trump administration opposition to the resolution, and requested that Russia vote against or delay the resolution. Flynn also falsely stated that Kislyak never described Russia's response to his December 22 request regarding the resolution. Kislyak in fact told Flynn in a conversation on December 23, 2016, that Russia would not vote against the resolution if it came to a vote. See Flynn's statement of offense 4. Flynn also made this false statement to the FBI at a time when he was serving as National Security Advisor, and when the FBI had an open investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, including the nature of any links between the Trump campaign and Russia. Flynn's false statement and omission impeded and otherwise had a material impact on that ongoing investigation. Flynn's statement of offense 1 and 2. They also came shortly before Flynn made separate submission to the Department of Justice pursuant to FARA that also contained materially false statement and omission, ID 5. Based on the totality of that conduct, the office decided to charge Flynn with making false statement to the FBI in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001A. On December 1, 2017, and pursuant to a plea agreement, Flynn pleaded guilty to that charge and also admitted his false statement to the department in his FARA filing. CID Plea Agreement United States versus Michael T. Flynn, number 117-CR-232 DDC, December 1, 2017, document 3. Flynn is awaiting sentence. Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen was the executive vice president and special counsel to the Trump Organization when Trump was president of the Trump Organization. United States versus Cohen, number 118-CR-850 SDNY, November 29, 2018, document 2, Cohen information. From the fall of 2015 through approximately June of 2016, Cohen was involved in a project to build a Trump-branded tower and adjoining development in Moscow. The project was known as Trump Tower Moscow. Cohen was called to testify before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, HPSCI, and the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, SSCI, both of which were investigating Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election and possible links between Russia and the presidential campaign. In late August 2017, in advance of his testimony, Cohen caused a two-page statement to be sent to SSCI and HPSI addressing Trump Tower Moscow, Cohen Information 2 and 3. The letter contained 3 representations relevant here. First, Cohen stated that the Trump Tower Moscow project had ended in January of 2016 and that he had briefed candidate Trump on the project only 3 times before making the unilateral decision to terminate it. Second, Cohen represented that he never agreed to travel to Russia in connection with the project and never considered asking Trump to travel for the project. Third, Cohen stated that he did not recall any Russian government contact about the project, including any response to an email that he had sent to a Russian government email account. Cohen later asked that his 2-page statement be incorporated into his testimony transcript before SSCI, and he ultimately gave testimony to SSCI that was consistent with that statement. Cohen Information 5. Each of the foregoing representation in Cohen's 2-page statement was false and misleading. Consideration of the project had extended through approximately June of 2016 and included more than 3 progress reports from Cohen to Trump. Cohen had discussed with Felix Sater his own travel to Russia as part of the project, and he had inquired about the possibility of Trump traveling there, both with the candidate himself and with senior campaign official Corey Lewandowski. Cohen did recall that he had received response to the email that he sent to the Russian government spokesman Dmitry Peskov, in particular that he received an email reply and had a follow-up phone conversation with an English-speaking assistant to Peskov in mid-January 2016. Cohen Information 7. Cohen knew the statement in the letter to be false at the time and admitted that he made them in an effort to minimize the links between the project and Trump, who by this time was president, and second, give false impression that the project had ended before the first vote in the Republican Party primary process in the hope of limiting the ongoing Russia investigation. Given the nature of the false statement and the fact that he repeated them during his initial interview with the office, we charged Cohen with violating Section 1001. On November 29, 2018, Cohen pleaded guilty pursuant to a plea agreement to a single count information charging him with making false statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001 A, 2, and C. Cohen information. The case was transferred to the district judge presiding over the separate prosecution of Cohen pursuant by the Southern District of New York after a referral from our office. On December 7, 2018, this office submitted a letter to that judge recommending that Cohen's cooperation with our investigation be taken into account in sentencing Cohen both the false statement charge and the offense in the Southern District prosecution. On December 12, 2018, the judge sentenced Cohen to 2 months of imprisonment on the false statement count to run concurrently with a 36-month sentence imposed on the other count. The remaining part of this paragraph has been redacted, harm to ongoing matter. And the first 3/4 of the following page has also been redacted, harm to ongoing matter. Jeff Sessions. As set forth in Volume 1, Section 4.A.6 supra, the investigation established that while a U.S. Senator and a Trump campaign advisor, former Attorney General Jeff Sessions interacted with Russian Ambassador Kislyak during the week of the Republican National Convention in July 2016 and again at a meeting in Sessions' Senate office in September of 2016. The investigation also established that Sessions and Kislyak both attended a reception held before candidate Trump foreign policy speech at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C. in April of 2016, and that it is possible that they met briefly at the reception. The office considered whether, in light of this interaction, Sessions committed perjury before or made false statement to Congress in connection with his information as Attorney General. In January 2017 testimony during his confirmation hearing, Sessions stated in response to a question about Trump campaign communication with the Russian that he had, quote, been called a surrogate and at a time or two in that campaign, and I didn't have communication with the Russian, end of quote. In written responses submitted on January 17, 2017, Sessions answered no to a question asking whether he had been in contact with anyone connected to any part of the Russian government about the 2016 election, either before or after the election day. And in a March 2017 supplement to his testimony, Sessions identified 2 of the campaign period contact with Ambassador Kislyak noted above, which had been reported in the media following the January 2017 confirmation hearing. Sessions stated in the supplemental response that he did, quote, not recall any discussion with the Russian ambassador or any other representative of the Russian government regarding the political campaign on this occasion or any other occasion, end of quote. Although the investigation established that Sessions interacted with Kislyak on the occasion described above and that Kislyak mentioned the presidential campaign on at least one occasion, the evidence is not sufficient to prove that Sessions gave knowingly false answers to Russia-related questions in light of the wording and context of those questions. With respect to Sessions' statement that he did, quote, not recall any discussion with the Russian ambassador regarding the political campaign, end of quote, and he had not been in contact with any Russian official about the 2016 election, the evidence concerning the nature of Sessions' interaction with Kislyak makes it plausible that Sessions did not recall discussing the campaign with Kislyak at the time of his statement. Similarly, while Sessions stated in January 2017 oral testimony that he, quote, did not have communication with Russia, end of quote, he did so in response to a question that had linked such communication to an alleged, quote, continuing exchange of information, end of quote, between Trump campaign and Russian government intermediaries. Sessions later explained to the Senate and to the office that he understood the question as narrowly calling for disclosure of interaction with the Russian that involve the exchange of campaign information as distinguished from more routine contact with Russian nationals. Given the context in which the question was asked, that understanding is plausible. Accordingly, the office concluded that the evidence was insufficient to prove that Sessions was willfully untruthful in his answers and thus insufficient to obtain or sustain a conviction for perjury or false statement. Consistent with the principles of federal prosecution, the office therefore determined not to pursue charges against Sessions and informed his counsel of that decision in March of 2018. Others interviewed during the investigation. The office considered whether, during the course of the investigation, other individuals interviewed either omitted material information or provided information determined to be false. Applying the principles of federal prosecution, the office did not seek criminal charges against any individual other than those listed above. In some instances, that decision was due to evidentiary hurdles to proving falsity. In others, the office determined that the witness ultimately provided truthful information and that consideration of culpability, deterrence, and resource preservation weighed against prosecution. See Justice Manual 9-27.220, 9-27.230.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
We are also glad to inform you that with the last statement we made, we have concluded the reading of Volume 1 of Mueller Report. Next week, we will come back to begin the reading of Volume 2 of the Mueller Report. It is a reminder that on July 17, that Robert Mueller, the architect of the report, will be on Capitol Hill to talk about the report and answer any question, clear the air, and make everyone feel comfortable as to what the report says or does not say. I hope you find this information useful. If not, you already know what to do. Send us comment, criticism, suggestion. Let us know how to make it better. As I always say, this is not going anywhere, so you might as well help to make it better. Should you have a particular topic you would like us to discuss here, we will research it, we will debate it right here on the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a great weekend. Hope to see you again next week. Good day. That was an update through the prism of common sense. Join us again next week. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Send us comments, criticism, suggestion, or simply let us know how we're doing. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. See you soon. The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.